So excited today that I am introducing the world through sexy aging to a lady I've met once. This is Natalie Dow, and Natalie is based in Singapore, and I'm calling in from New Zealand. I always start the podcast with, how the heck did we actually meet? And once again, I can kind of say I started following you on Instagram. I feel like everyone I'm introducing is like from an Instagram follow. But actually, this really applies to you. So, but in actual fact, we met face to face in Singapore at an event, a fitness event. And we were on the same panel, and it was talking about women in fitness and influencers, women who influence in fitness. And we came from different perspectives, and I came from, the in-club experience and building programs in club, and you came from a different perspective. But we sat next to each other, and someone asked the question which you probably get asked all the time. So if you don't know Natalie, I'm sharing right now, she has this Instagram handle called Rockstar Arms. And when someone said, why Rockstar Arms, you gave the best answer. So I'm going to leave that for you. You cracked me up, and I thought, this woman is cool. You are down to earth, funny, real. And it took me all of 5 minutes to figure out that, if we were living in the same city, we'd probably be friends. You're probably laughing because you're thinking, oh, I'm not sure.
No, we would.
We probably would. Just down to earth, tell it like it is. And we had a really good time on that panel. And I think from that moment, we kind of stayed in touch a little bit and just checked in with each other and stuff. So I'm going to leave it to you to tell the truth now.
I hope it's still the same story.
Is that right? Is that how we kind of...
Yeah, no, it is. That's exactly it. And the story behind the Instagram handle, which I do cringe when everyone says, "Oh, what's your name on Instagram or social media?" It just started out as a joke, really.
I love that answer. But I do want to say before you carry on that if you have checked out Natalie's Instagram handle, Rockstar Arms, she's got more than the Rockstar Arms. It's like the whole thing is going on there, and you're just a huge inspiration for women. So while the name is a joke, you are no joke, Natalie.
Thank you. Yeah, so it was just a joke that stuck and ended up, amassing followers. And then it was just like, oh my God, I can't change it now. It is what it is. So I do feel a bit of that imposter syndrome, with its, and that people think I might actually take myself too seriously with the handle, but it's not, it's not meant to be at all.
Yeah, and that's why I'm so glad to have you here and sharing, because when people get to know you and they hear your voice and hear your take on it, it just makes you so much more accessible. So yes, so tell us what you do, like, and how you got into the fitness industry, because I think that's a great story.
Yeah, so I've been in Singapore 17 years now. I came up with work. I worked for IT consulting firms. Came for 2 years, didn't leave, and I played sport my whole life, basketball at a somewhat high level, and then you hit your 20s and it's about drinking and having fun, but would manage to do some runs in between there. And so stayed somewhat fit but didn't take it as seriously. And I'd been traveling to the US or the UK at least once a month with my job for many years, had a child, kept traveling, and then just decided that this wasn't what I wanted to do. I had a really good friend of mine who was my boss based in the US, another great female, and she'd left the company, and I thought it was time that maybe I left and did something that meant more to me than jumping on planes and working in a super large consulting firm. So I didn't know what that would be. I took myself off to a retreat for a week, came back, had helped a friend lose 60 kilos during the last year, and people were sort of asking, how did that happen? What did you do? So decided to start a Facebook group just to share some tips and empower females, first and foremost. And that group was just, it was a very private group, just friends of friends joining. And that amassed to 5,000 people in a couple of months. So I thought, oh, my background's marketing, then this is an opportunity maybe for some content, that's a little bit more Asia based. So I built a website, started publishing a ton of content during this time. I was posting to social media. So we're talking seven years ago now. So just consistently posting, and I was getting into my running and Spartan racing and things more seriously then, and starting to win some things. And then, then it grew from there. So I'd always, for years and years, I'd had my PT qualifications, but never trained anyone, but it was a passion of mine. So started building online programs and testing those out, and people started paying for them. So I thought it was a great opportunity to start and, have my app built, which I did because no one else was sort of doing that from a personal point of view in this part of the world. And then would pick up contracts with the likes of Sport Singapore, which I still have for writing content. And it sort of was a very organic growth. So when people say, well, how do you get those followers, or what do you do? It's like doing the same thing every day consistently, which no one really wants to hear about.
Yeah.
But, it's those boring things. And it's learning to say no to a lot of things, embracing things that you don't know about, and just, thinking 70% is good enough, just get on with it. Nothing's going to be perfect. So I think it's been a really nice journey so far, and the journey continues, and I think it's still continuing to grow organically, maybe with a little bit more planning around it now. But there's I've had some great opportunities. Filmed a big series for Facebook pre-pandemic, which we ended up with, I think, 30 million views. So it's been great, and there's definitely a need for content which isn't this go stuff. It's just telling stories, and so I think there's people can never get enough of really good, inspiring stories from everyday people.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I just want to wind back a little bit to the part where you said, you've got to be consistent, and you kept posting content and you had to learn new things. Well, it's kind of like that with the podcast for me.
Yes.
It's old dog, new tricks right now. But to be able to spend time talking to people like yourself, and then realizing that people really like that type of thing, it's really inspiring. And it's if I had spent more time working out how to edit things perfectly, it would never have got done. And so I'm just really glad that you said that, because we're in the early days of the podcast. And if I kept thinking about how I could make things better and better and better, it would never get out and we would miss the opportunity. So I just feel, inspired by what you've just said. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no, it is. And I think the same with any, with any social media, with anything. People get hung up on this photo or that photo, or, what am I saying in the text? Just get it out there, and people will read it or they won't read it. It doesn't matter, but just put it out there. If you're comfortable putting it out there, do it. People don't want that polished, perfect thing. I think I just want something that's far more real.
Yeah, not to overthink it too much, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes when I listen back to the podcast before I release them, I'm like, oh, I really didn't think about that. But okay, we're moving on. It's going out. So you also, what the series that you did for Facebook, was that a television series, or have you done other things like that before?
No. So again, out of comfort zone, I'd worked a bit in media, but I worked with Facebook as one of their creators, and the Singapore government to do this series called Keeping It Real, which was following 3 people through their journey. It wasn't about losing weight. It was just, getting well and being their best selves. And we ended up following 3 guys. with very different backgrounds. But, you know, so it's like, here I am hosting a series, which I'd never done before.
Yeah.
And hopefully doing another one again this year when things settle down. So, you know, it is the old dog, new tricks, you know. So at 47, I'm, you know, producing this series that, you know, was totally out of my comfort zone, but it's so much fun.
Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. And I think that the way that you're so authentic and genuine that people can relate so well to you, that I know that you've got more coming for you. So yay. All right, so moving on to your age.
Yes.
Because that's what people want to know. And you know, you're fabulous, you look amazing, and I know you train really hard, and you have a focus of a certain type of exercise that you do as well. Do you want to share what your focus is for keeping yourself fit now? And you are 47, so I can tell
No,
you.
49, nearly 49, nearly
Yeah,
49 this month.
so
Yeah.
that's good, 'cause that changes the trajectory of some of my questions. It's going to be fun. But yeah, share with the listeners, like, yeah, what would a typical workout be for you?
Yeah, so, you know, I think so, you know, when it comes to fitness, I'm always about putting myself out of my comfort zone. So, you know, it was Spartan racing, and then I went and did track because I'd never done track before and competed in that. And then I thought, what is the opposite of what I can do with track is go and run ultras, even though I'd never run a marathon before.
Yeah.
So for me, I've fallen in love with ultra running. So a lot of my training revolves around obviously running. Now I'm older, it's not about running faster, it's about endurance and running longer and slower. So
Mm-hmm.
I really believe that that's kept me injury free as well. So for me, I will be running anywhere from 110 to 150 kilometers a week. And then I think also on top of that, strength is super important. So, you know, I will do a couple of weight sessions a week. You know, I'm terrible with mobility and flexibility, so that's something that I'm working on. So, you know, we do a family stretch at 6:15 every morning. I make everyone stretch for 15 minutes. So it's about looking after my body for the longer term, but still, you know, still pushing myself to see what I can achieve and do some, you know, crazy 100-mile races and different things, just because I really believe, you know, I can still perform at a
Yeah.
high level and do that, but it's just got to be planned a lot better with the training.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if you or other listeners have listened to previous podcast episodes with Wendy Sweet, Dr. Wendy Sweet. She delivered episode 1 was hormones and sleep, which is really awesome. And then episode 2 was hormones and exercise. And she actually did touch on how endurance exercise was a preferable mode for women who are perimenopausal or menopausal or older. So I think you're a really, really fantastic example of someone that, I mean, obviously you're taking it to the extreme of an ultra marathon, but saying how that is actually better for your body. And mentally, I think it's a tough sport mentally. I feel that as we get older, we have that mental toughness, you know?
Oh, 100%. You know, I did my first ultra marathon, which was 100 Ks, had no expectations, you know, whatsoever. Just got out there and did it. Had no music because my music broke within the first 5 kilometers. So I was in my head for, you know, for 11 hours. And, you know, I ended up winning it and beating all the boys, and, you know, which was, you know, mind blowing for me. But I think you're right. It's really at least 50% mental at that point. And I feel like as women, as we age, we're mentally tougher. We don't really give a damn what anyone thinks. And you just get on with it and do it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's brilliant. So at 49, so this is where I said I was going to
Yes.
pivot. Have you experienced any perimenopausal or menopausal symptoms, or had moments where you've gone, oh gosh, that feels a bit weird?
All the time, you know, and I actually have just been to my doctor for a checkup, and she said, oh, you can still have babies if you like. Well, there's no chance of that.
Why
But
did
you
I say that? My GP was the same. My gynae
know,
was the same. She'd go, oh, you've still got some eggs looking good
yeah,
there. And I'm like, have you met my last child?
yeah, there's no
We're
chance.
not. Shut it shut. Yeah.
But I feel mass hormone shifts quite regularly. I can be running some days and I just feel like I want to burst out crying for no reason at all. And even I have to stop myself constantly, just being short or being knowing that there's frustration building up. So absolutely, I do that. Experience the sweats at night. And I feel like when it comes to exercise, especially when we talk about endurance and things, I used to I'd do CrossFit, I'd do those HIIT classes. Now I just feel like that's not being kind to my body. So um, I'm trying to work out what is being kind and looking after it a lot better.
Yeah. So it's quite a journey, isn't it? I think we're quite similar in that way. We really understand our bodies. And so when these little changes come up, it only takes like maybe 2 months, or it might have been 2 cycles, where the same crazy shit happened. And you go, oh, this is something to do with menopause or perimenopause. So you mentioned, like how you'd be running along and you feel like you're going to burst into tears. I mentioned this on a previous podcast as well. Like I had these kind of psychotic episodes and I never spoke to anyone about them. Even my husband, I never said, I'm having these moments in my head where I'm playing out scenarios that are just not true, and it started to really mess with my confidence. And then when I realized it was 2 or 3 months in a row that I was having that same moment, and it's usually as you're driving in the car and you're playing the scenario in your head, which is not true. And then you go, oh, this is how your hormones really mess with you. And of course, when you're waking up in the night, like a sleep, night sweats and stuff, it gets worse, the messing with the head thing. So when you mentioned, you could even be out running and feel like you want to cry, I 100% got you. I got you on that one.
It is, yeah. It's just a random feeling that I think unless you're going through it, you can't explain it to someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know why you're getting it, and you know what it probably is, but it doesn't
Doesn't
necessarily
help.
make it easier. Yes.
Yeah. I think the whole purpose of us talking is to reach other women and say, hey, look, what you're feeling and what you're experiencing, we've got that as well. And we also can't explain exactly, how to fix it because everybody's different. It's just
Yes.
that we'll keep searching and we'll keep sharing, some of the best practices and ideas. And for me, it's bound around science. So yeah, none of this hocus pocus stuff.
Oh,
You have quite a story around DVT and, something you found out about yourself.
yes. Yeah. So two things. So first, I was it must have been maybe 13 years ago, was waking up in the morning not being able to walk or hold a hairbrush or anything. I was doing triathlons back then, so I was struggling to cycle and hold handlebars, and went to the doctor and got tested and was told I had rheumatoid arthritis. So got on some drugs for that, not the steroids, but just something to try and get it under control. And then not long after that, I was, still doing triathlons, and had a sore leg, didn't know what it was, had done a couple of trips. And, I just remember being on a plane on the way home from China, seeing a friend. And I said to, Matt, my husband, I don't think I can walk off this plane. My leg's really sore. I'd been to the physio. They said it was nothing, and got myself home. And the next day woke up and my leg was double in size, literally almost like a mirror. You could see yourself. So I went to this great sports doctor in Singapore, and he's like, I'm betting it's DVT. Walk across the road, see this specialist, and he's scanning, just going blood clot, blood clot, blood clot, blood clot, all up my left leg. So, and then into hospital I went. So, I always joke, I don't get the flu, I just get big stuff.
Yeah.
And we did all the tests, and it was sort of 99% that it came from being on the contraceptive pill,
Wow.
which was the
Okay.
cause of it. So dealing with that, I wore those waist high awful stockings for 2 years, 24/7. So
Wow.
I think, we joke that the low point in my life, I got pregnant during that time as well, was being pregnant, trying to put on these stockings in the heat in Singapore, and then injecting myself because I was on blood thinners, and
Yeah.
arthritis playing up. So it wasn't a pretty sort of 18 months of my life at that time. But took myself off the tablets for my rheumatoid arthritis, and I can control it. I know what spurs it on. It's stress, it's alcohol, it's red meat for me.
Yeah.
So if I have any of those things, I know that there will be consequences. It's not that I don't want to have them. It's just the next day I won't be holding a hairbrush in the morning. And so it is what it is. But I really believe it shouldn't stop you from doing anything. And it's like you're saying, understanding your body and knowing what works and what doesn't work, and how you can heal yourself, really, or just control it yourself.
Yeah. Do you have any sort of specialist or someone that you can talk to around the effects of rheumatoid arthritis with menopausal hormones? Do you
No.
understand how they work together?
Yeah, because it's so interesting. Rheumatoid arthritis goes away when you're pregnant,
Yes.
um, which is magnificent. But then, as soon as I gave birth, almost it came back twice as bad, and I would struggle to hold Liliana or whatever because it was intense.
Yeah.
But no, I don't, and I do notice that I think stress and lack of sleep for me is almost the biggest things that bring it on. So it's trying to control it around that. But I haven't even thought about it with the hormone
Yeah. My
discussion.
sister is actually doing an episode with me, and she has lupus. So, and she's in the health industry, and she understands it quite well. So, what's exciting is that she'll follow and tell us a little bit more about how the hormones react to anti-inflammatory disorder.
Yeah.
So it'll be good for all of us, because I was totally blown away. I mean, she knows so much about how her body and hormones work when you have any anti-inflammatory disorder. I think rheumatoid arthritis comes under that. Fibromyalgia, is that how you say it?
Could much better than I could.
Oh, she's going to correct me. And lupus. So that's something to look forward to for people. And it's more widespread than we realize. And one of the really interesting things is I also noticed some inflammation in my joints. And that was about 2 or 3 years ago, just on the verge of perimenopause. And knowing that it was inflammation, the first thing I looked at was stress and diet. And I took out all the inflammatory foods and instantly toned up. And people were thinking that I'm training harder. In actual fact, it was the reverse. Just took out the inflammation and physically improved. Obviously, I felt better generally. So
Yeah.
like yourself, if I have those things, for me, it's, dairy products, wheat, too much alcohol, I'll instantly flare up and I feel crap the next day. So it is quite a kick in the butt, a reminder. It's so sad though, isn't it? Because
I know all the fun stuff.
they make such good wine here.
And I think most people are inflamed and they don't realize it.
Yeah.
They just learn to live with it, male or female.
Yeah.
But if we took a step back and thought about what does it feel to be normal, then it's not feeling, not having that hurt in your hands or your legs or your hips. It's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think it's pretty amazing that you are still training for ultra marathons and you do have rheumatoid arthritis. So does that not affect your joints at all? Or do you just, everything that you manage is just helping?
Yeah, I think I just manage it well. And then, I think as we age too, recovery is key, which, people forget about. So, things like, compression pants are key to my recovery. And just rest, I think, more than anything too. And making sure that I'm putting the good stuff in my body straight away after a 4-hour run or whatever the training session is. It's making sure that good stuff goes in, so your body's not feeling like it's being rejected by you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Great tips. Thank you. Um, so who's a woman that inspires you that you've always looked to?
Yeah, there's a lot of women in sport, but I sort of also look outside of sport at women that are really trailblazers in their field, and that are our age maybe,
Yeah.
or older. And I always appreciate that one of the hardest jobs as a woman, I think, to be successful in is as a female comedian, because it's a hard, as someone said, it's probably the hardest job in the world to be a female comedian. So I think the likes of the Amy Poehler's and things, they're still doing it. They're still mums. They're still, still getting asked stupid questions
Yeah.
by reporters, about their kids. Yet they're some of the funniest women on the planet, bringing joy to so many women, and we can relate to them.
Yeah.
Um, so I love women doing things out of the ordinary, like that. And then from a running perspective, Courtney Dorwater, but, Jasmine Paris, that, ran and set all these records whilst breastfeeding,
Yeah.
uh, and beat the men by 12 hours. I
Yeah.
think that they're ordinary women doing extraordinary things, which I think is the key. So it just shows that, a mum at home can go and, achieve extraordinary things if she wants to.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think that's an awesome way of viewing it. And yeah, ordinary woman doing extraordinary things. Thanks.
Yeah.
Because I aspire to be like J-Lo, but
Yeah,
it's
oh, I love J-Lo too. Yeah.
I think I've missed the boat on that side. So I'm wondering if the listeners have ever picked up the fact that to them, we may sound similar, but you're from Australia and I'm from New Zealand. So I'm going to do a random test here just to help people figure out, how do you know when you're talking to a Kiwi or when you're talking to an Aussie? There's the first thing, is I'll say Kiwi and you'll say Aussie. So I'm going to say a word and then you're going to say a word. You're going to say the same word.
Okay.
And we're going to help people figure it out. Okay, so my first word is dance.
Dance.
You don't say that.
I do. Yeah, I do.
You don't say dance.
No,
Oh,
see,
where are you
yeah.
from?
I know. Maybe it's posh Aussie.
Ooh, maybe because you've been away so long.
Yes, true.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's try another one. Jandals,
Oh, what are they? Sandals?
flip-flops,
Flip flops? Yeah, or thongs?
thongs. Our thongs is underwear.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, what about fish and chips?
Yeah, fish and chips.
Let's just do that one more time. Fish and chips.
Fish and chips.
Yeah, that's the one. Good job. Okay, but usually I tell people that if they want to figure out the difference between an Australian and a Kiwi, it's to ask them to say the word dance, because we'll say dance, and normally in
Yes, they
Australia,
dance. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, well, moving off that, just threw it in there.
I love it.
So a book or a course that you would recommend, because part of the information that I want to share is that we're all inspired by things that we read, that we listen to, and we're all about sharing. So some of it is like selfish reasons. I want to know, what are you reading?
Yeah, and I'm out on a lot of long runs, and I don't listen to music. I listen to podcasts
Yeah.
and audio books, so I get through them very fast. But one that I thought was really pertinent to this discussion is a book called Lifespan, by Dr. David Sinclair, who's actually an Aussie guy based at Harvard, and it talks about the aging process and how we don't have to age. And he's this amazing research scientist, super famous around the world. So I would encourage everyone to either read it or listen to it, because it really, it gives you hope, and maybe a bit of a kick that, you don't have to accept aging as it's been, being taught to us. We can do different things. We don't need to be stopping getting old or not being able to run that ultra marathon or whatever it may be. So I think that's a super, super good one.
Oh, I love it. I've written it down and I'm on it. It sounds amazing, like right up my alley. So
Yes.
thank you for the recommendation. So It's been awesome. You've been awesome. And I hope that we can meet up again in person really soon, like as soon as, pandemic's done.
Yeah. As soon as we can get on a, well, you've been on a plane, as soon as I can get on a plane.
Yeah. I mean, and the last flight I took was nothing like the experiences I've had in the past. That was
Yeah.
highly stressful, executed like, as if we were going in to do a diamond robbery. It was everything was so, I mean, I went through Singapore airport and it was crazy. Yeah, it was nothing like I've been ever seen before. It was so surreal. So I'm really looking forward to the next time I get to Singapore and that we can sit down and have a face to face.
Yes, same. And a glass of wine, even though it'll make us sore the next
Oh,
day.
we'll complain to each other the next day. We'll do a long, slow, gentle walk.
Yes.
Thanks, Natalie.
Thank you so much.